If I know you've been sort of you haven't advocated for green technology, and it's something that you mentioned before. And I was looking at the ETFs recently of low carbon ETF solutions. So there's sort of solar, there's wind, I think there's hydrogen, and then there was nuclear. And nuclear currently, they're calling it a low carbon, which is good, and it's far surpassing the other markets currently. Do you see that sort of being a trend moving forward?
I do. And by the way, I've invested in all of them and I support all of them. I would note, however, that in particular, wind and solar are intermittent sources of power. They're not areas of baseload power. And until and unless we make spectacular investments in the grid, making it addressable and distributable, uh, increasing reliance on intermittent sources of energy is going to require an awful lot of construction of peaking plants to provide reliable power when the wind doesn't blow or the sun doesn't shine. The brightest, if you will, of the non-carbon so-called alternatives is, as you suggest, nuclear, which is in a real renaissance. A lot of the environmental opposition around the nuclear industry has receded as a consequence of the fact that it provides reasonably priced and very available baseload power that doesn't generate either carbon pollution or particulate pollution. An extremely attractive outcome. They're building nuclear power plants around the world, 61 under construction the last time I looked, with 110 others in permitting or financing stages. So what we're seeing is a real nuclear renaissance, and we could do a whole interview on the uranium business if you were wanted to. It's a fascinating topic, unlike really any other natural resource that I follow.
And where are those plants being built? Are they mainly in China? Or are they sort of globally?
The ones that matter the most are being built in China, and China is assisting in the construction and finance of many others. But the truth is, we're actually building another nuclear power plant in the United States after a fairly long hiatus. And plants are planned or in the permitting or financing phase, literally all over the world. The French are interested, the Finns are interested, the Russians, of course, are building like mad. They're building in the UAE, they're building in India. There really is a nuclear renaissance going on.
And maybe without going, as you said, without going into an hour-long conversation about it, what impact does this have on uranium? Because I know it's not all about supply and demand and that
Well,
specific business.
we should start by saying the easy money in the uranium trade's been made. Uranium 3 years ago was priced at $20 a pound. Now uranium is priced at 92 or 93 bucks a pound, having touched a high of $110 a pound. It's likely that the incentive price for Greenfield's uranium mine building is something like 75 US dollars per pound. What's more important to note, Anthony, is that the structure of the uranium market is changing very rapidly from most of the transactions taking place in the spot market with overnight pricing and no security of either pricing or supply to a term market where the price of the material and the deliverability of the material is determined by mutually agreed upon contracts between the buyer and the seller. What's unique about this is that for a lot of the nuclear plant construction around the world, the lenders for these very capital intensive plants are insisting that the promoters of the plant have tied up effectively enough uranium fuel to amortize the loan associated with the plant, a loan frequently in the amount of $5 or $6 billion. What this has done is given the uranium mine operators the opportunity to, with some certainty, lock in the amount of material that they sell and the price that they sell it to for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. A certainty with regards to revenue and margin that is unavailable, as far as I know, in any other commodity on the globe. These contracts, unfortunately, right now are fairly opaque. The spot market is easy to see. The term market isn't so easy to see. I think it's going to take us a couple years to understand how to suss out the stability that producers like Cameco will have on a going forward basis around term contracts. My suspicion is that the companies that make good disclosure around term contracts will have a lower cost of both debt and equity capital. So my suspicion too is that 5 years from now, there will be standards of reporting with regards to term contracts that don't exist today.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And I guess as you said, as the market matures, and the regulations and the norms going to get come into place. But do you see this being I guess the future? Do you think this is going to be where a lot of the energy in our future comes from, or does it really depend on the society and governments and how they embrace it?
I think almost inevitably that this is going to be very important in the future. All of us in the West make reference to carbon. The Chinese government has pointed out in their own materials that they believe 500,000 Chinese people a year die from respiratory illness due to particulate pollution. And one of the things that nuclear does as an example, by backing out coal, is greatly reducing the levels of particulate pollution in particularly frontier and emerging markets, urban areas, and there, particularly China. So my suspicion is almost no matter what the big thinkers want, the market is going to demand uranium. The big risk factor there, of course, would be human error, which is to say another Fukushima, uh, another 3 Mile Island, another Chernobyl, or heaven forbid, another Hiroshima and Nagasaki.